What advice would you have when it comes to parents who just have some ambition, but also want to be there for their kids?
I think I learned the lesson the hard way. And if I could share with people, things to think about and awareness, we would say, oh, we'll do that when kids are older, when this, right? And that's not what we need to do. We need to do it now. If we don't give ourselves some grace and compassion, if you don't take care of yourself, you won't have the energy and desire or ability to take care of other people.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Raising the Next Gen podcast. I'm so excited about the guest that we have here today. Not only is this somebody who I've just been remarkably impressed with since I met you at, I think that it was at a baptism. I think it's one of your grandkids' baptisms when we first met. But then I got the opportunity to sort of do one of your son's weddings. But then I got to know you as a person, as a counselor, and you've volunteered here at the church in such beautiful ways, and so we're super grateful. Friends, I'm really excited to introduce to you Myra Hickenleibel. Which one? Did I get it right? Hickenleibel Gotto. I can't ever seem to get that right. And Myra, why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are and sort of how you came to this area?
Well, actually, I always describe myself as this little farm kid from South Dakota, because that's just who I am. Grew up in a town of 700. And so that's where I kind of come from. Different careers I've had of helping people, educational mental health role for almost 40 years. And raised our family in the Windham, Minnesota area, 27 years. And we just came up here about 2 years ago. One of our sons are up here with his family. The 2 boys are in Bloomington with their significant others. And so we're here now, just enjoying life.
Yeah, we're really glad that that you made your way to the Alexandria area. So we're super grateful. Myra, I know that you did a lot of work in mental health for about 35, you said almost 40 years that you've been doing this. Can you kind of walk us through sort of your trajectory of that sort of story of your life's work, really, besides raising those 3 amazing men that you have raised too?
Yeah, they're pretty special.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it started out back in the 80s and had a master's or a bachelor's degree, I should say, in special ed in psychology from Augustana in Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
And so I've always loved helping people in different ways. And I started off teaching and creating emotional behavior disorder programs out in Wyoming. And then came back when I got married to more the Iowa way and taught kids again in public schools, learning disabilities, cognitive impairments, just really trying to understand how people function. Loved it so much. I got my master's in special ed with emphasis on EBD, and then
what's EBD?
Emotional behavior disorder.
Okay, thanks.
So really still looking at why people do things, how come, what do we what makes us tick. All this was very fascinating to me because we're all human, but we're all very different. Right. And so I'm so curious about that I taught in lack up units, trying to understand kids that have had things happen to them. Now they have done things that they need some help with as well.
Right.
Into my doctoral program, which is ed psych and counseling with school psych. So I was a school psychologist, licensed psychologist, play therapist, and now I'm an equine gestalt coach and practitioner leadership coach. So it's all kind of helping people in all kinds of different ways.
And it sounds like, for the majority of your career, you've really focused on that sort of adolescent sort of kind of the kid and student sort of range there.
Yeah. You know what I would say? It's interesting because the youngest from a true age by have been 5 to 75, 80. But I think when people come to see me, it really is some emotional maybe pain that they've had, some unsureness of just where they're at. And it really ties a lot to the emotional level and where we are from a mental health level and cognitive level at the same time.
Yeah.
So when we've had things happen or we've had losses, a lot of us regress back to things that we've had in the past. And it's just a normal thing that happens to people. And so I think we're all a kid at heart, and we really have to connect with that in order to let go of some pain and also be able to move forward and kind of get out of our own head because we try to rationalize everything, right? And it doesn't work real well.
So here's a question for you. This podcast is all about how do we equip parents and caregivers. What have you sort of seen when you think about parents and caregivers carrying their own sort of childhood weight into sort of raising their kids? How do we as parents sort of work through the stuff that I have when I grew up that I know that I bled into my kids? What's your sort of wisdom for parents and caregivers when it talks about sort of, because we have those things in our lives that we have carried with us. So how do we just, I guess, not bring it to the next generation?
Yeah, that's always a tough question, right? Because I think all of us, and the biggest thing is not to compare ourselves with other people, because sometimes we like to, we all have things that happen to us in our life. And it depends how we're, genetically made, our life experiences, what we choose to do with those things. And we can all have things happen at the exact same thing that happens to us, but we're going to respond differently, or sometimes we react. And so what's important is not to compare and minimize. If there is something that's bothering us, and sometimes we don't see it until we're out of it. If we were raised in a certain way, it's not to put blame or anything on anybody, but to say if it's not working for us and how we want to live, not to just stuff that down and ignore it, but to kind of bring it to the forefront and say, what do I need to do with this? Did it work for me? How did it affect me when I was a child? How did it affect my relationships as I get into an adult? You don't have to carry those with you. But the only way I think it can't move forward and you can heal is if we ignore it, that's what's going to happen.
Right.
Is we have to at least address it. And we might say, that's no big deal. Everybody deals with that. But you know what? If it's important to you and it's impacting your life where you're at, it's important to explore it and to look at it.
Yeah. That makes me think of, actually, this is such a nerdy, churchy thing, but in the book of Revelation, it talks about it being an apocalyptic book. And the word apocalypse actually just sort of means like a revealing. So if you imagine like you're having a dinner and they bring it out on a fancy tray and it's covered a little bit. When the waiter comes and brings it to your table, you open it up, and that's actually what the Greek word apocalypse means. Like it's this revealing, and that's how we interpret the book of Revelation as a revealing of God's goodness in the world. But you're talking about like in our family systems, like or what we carried from our childhood. How do we take that tray off? To sit there and say, let's reveal and sort of show kind of the light, give light to those things that bothered us or that hurt us or caused pain in us as children. I think that is some of the hardest work that parents and caregivers have to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think what it is nowadays we're starting to be more open to having the conversation. And I think it could be from, yes, friends, it could be pastors, it could be professional people, it could be just being able to have that relationship with you, because I think it comes into like interpersonal relationships where we're connecting with other people and saying, hey, let's just be real and vulnerable. And if I always said, how many people love to be vulnerable? I never had somebody say, pick me, because it's a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
But to heal and to move forward, we have to own it. And when we give a voice to it, we have to share it with someone somehow. And from your faith, yes, it's prayer through God. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. But He put us on this earth also to be with other people. And in that connectedness is being able to share our pain, listen to other people's pain, because we can grow from each other and heal, but also have that relationship with intrapersonal, is that relationship with yourself. And being able to look in the mirror. It's like, who do you see in the mirror? Do you see somebody? We usually look in the mirror and be like getting ready for the day, hair, makeup, if the male is shaved, those type of things.
Yeah.
But if you really look at that person eye to eye, what do you see? Who do you see?
Yeah.
Because it's almost like you have to be the best friends. And sometimes your best friends, you absolutely love them and you cheer them on. And sometimes you're just ready to just right? And so we have that with ourselves, but we have to learn to give ourselves grace and compassion to be able to work through that. And I think it's really a matter of being able to, I always say, to vomit it out. You got to get rid of that. The more we stuff it down, so whatever avenue people feel is, I would really encourage people, they have some things going on. And if it's affecting you presently, and you can notice it in your relationships with your kids, with your significant other, in work, it's really important to address it somehow, somewhere. Not one way works for everybody. So there's different ways to do it, different groups, different one-on-ones, different retreats, you name it. But it's important to acknowledge it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're hoping to do with this Raising the Next Gen project, is to get parents connected with other parents and caregivers who are sort of doing the same age and stage, so that they have their people. There's a meme out there where it says that Jesus's first miracle was having 12 best friends in his 30s. And so our hope is that we can kind of continue to just walk with parents and caregivers to sit there and say, hey, let's help you find your people. I think that that's really hard to do right now. How do we actually do that? Like that showing that sort of apocalypse moment, like you're talking about, that vomited out. If we don't know who that we're safe to do that with.
Right. And I think that's a great point you just brought up. That's safe, right? And I think it's a psychological, emotional safety. And I think, anytime we talk to somebody, whether it's a trusted friend, because sometimes our people that we think we know the best can't always listen and hear what we have to say.
Yeah.
And so sometimes people we don't know very well. And as long as that emotional and psychological safety is like brought up at the beginning, say, hey, here's a place that you can truly be you. There's no judgment. There's no people, like, it's not really advice that we want. Is really, I want to hear you. I see you. I value you. I understand you. That's what we all want.
Yeah, I agree. When I'm just ready to just sort of say all the things that are on my heart, I don't actually want somebody to tell me like what I should do with it.
Most of us don't.
Yeah. I just want them to just say yeah, that's really hard. I don't know if it doesn't seem like rocket science, but it actually feels like it is such a hard work for someone to hold that space and just let me verbally process it or uncover sort of some of those things that are so going on. I was thinking about you were saying about how every person is sort of different, and how we all sort of take things in different ways. I'm sure you experienced this. You have 3 sons within how many years? They're
6 years.
6 years. All right. So they're like bang, bang, bang. I have 4 kiddos within 15 years, 2 sons and 2 daughters. And one thing that I learned from my father-in-law, actually, I grew up in this home where my mom used to say, well, I'm going to try and treat you all equally. She wanted to give everyone the same number of presents under the tree. We had the same things, same dollar amount spent on this. And it was very kind of rigid equally. But then when I married into the Larson family, my father-in-law actually said, I promise never to treat them the same because they're different people. And so that was a really big shift for me sort of mentally, to sit there and say, you're right. Like, my 4 kids are different. You got 3 boys in 6 years, and they may look alike, but my guess is that they handle and process things very differently. And so we as adults, maybe we experienced something that our siblings experienced, and they have had a different sort of emotional response to whatever we experienced growing up. So how do we create space for those just like my brother and I, we both experienced some of the same things. He internalized it really differently than I did. I don't know. How would you coach and equip parents to sit there and when they have multiple kiddos, how to sit there and create space for those kids to have different experiences?
And you know what? It's interesting. So siblings aren't any different than for people if you just walk down the street. You're all created uniquely different. And so people can have the same experience and see it very differently, just like siblings. So genetically, yes, you have some genetics the same. You might have walked through the same parental discipline and boundaries, yet you're all how you choose to respond. And part of it is a choice on how you respond. A part of it is you got to go and how you react to things. And so what I would say is, we have, first of all, parents, give ourselves some grace. We don't have. And there's wonderful resources and books and ideas and topics that we can learn from. I would say, take that all in, chew it a little bit. What works for you, use and utilize and give it a shot. And what doesn't, toss it. And it's not that it's bad stuff, but when we're parenting, it has to be kind of work authentically to who we are. So we say, do these 3 things, it'll work. Well, first of all, it has to be authentic through me. And it might not sound right. And it's like, that doesn't sound like you. And so that relationship isn't there. But each child is different. And so they, how they show their feelings, how they need love, how they need support. Some will need let's go now. And some of them need, really the softer part. And I'd say it takes time to build that relationship. Be present with them is what I would say the most. Instead of just saying, well, here we're going to do this, take the time. It doesn't have to be 2-3 hours at a shot to really sit down with them, look at them, spend time with them, ask them questions, and you'll start to get to know the little things that matter. I'd say go with the little things, pay attention to what that one child needs.
Yeah.
And then when things come up, then you got that go-to. It doesn't have to be 7 different ways that I have to work with Jolie, 7 different ways I have with Sally. I mean, it's not that. It's get a gut feeling where you're at, spend time so you really connect with them on that level. And I would say at the emotional level, is really where people want to be heard and valued.
Yeah.
So if you kind of know what makes that child, tick when they're in pain, what do they need? Do they need space? Do they need you to give them a hug? Do they need you to say something? Just be present. I mean, even we did that with each one of them when they were feeling something. If they need to celebrate with that one. Unless that's awful, you don't do so much of that.
Right.
But those little things from an emotional standpoint, I would say if you can connect there, that's where I would probably start and plant the seed.
Yeah. Like, how do you, my daughter Skylar is probably the most introverted of all of my kiddos. And we were having dinner one night, and Sawyer, my other son, is super extroverted. And he was talking about how one of his friends was so introverted and all these sort of things. And then Skylar asked the question, she goes, "What's an introvert?" And I said, "Oh, it's when somebody gains energy by being alone, as opposed to an extrovert that gains energy by being with other people." But then her whole face lit up, and she goes, "I'm an introvert." And I said, "We
Light bulb.
know, honey. We know that you are an introvert. Why do you think you just get that downtime after school?" And Sawyer sits in the kitchen and has to unravel his whole day. She's like, but it was like she saw herself for the first time. It was so adorable for her to be able to name who she was a little bit in that moment. But it took me a while as her extroverted mom to sort of figure that out about her.
Yeah, and I always say relationships are like a dance.
Yeah.
Right? And I talk about this all the time, is that some people, I grew up dancing, so that makes a lot of sense to me. So, so your kids and even your significant other, or wherever you're at, or relationships, we all do something different. And some of them are very natural to us. So some of us, I grew up with a uncle having a polka band, and I grew up, two-step and waltzing and jitterbug and you name it, right? And so sometimes your natural tendency might be, "Oh, I love to swing dance. This is so fun. This is awesome." Somebody else might go, "Oh no, that's not me. I'd rather just kind of, the waltz." And when I'm saying this, I'm laughing because the kids nowadays will say, "What is she talking about?"
It's all right. It's all
So
right.
I'll have to look it up. But the parents should understand this, right? And then some of the polka. And so the thing is, it's this rhythm that
Yeah.
you have to get into. And so if the parent has in this normal rhythm, that's their normal go-to, and the child is dancing to another rhythm, it's awkward and it's uncomfortable. And so it's like, how can we dance together? How can we get smoother so we're not stepping on each other's feet or stomping on purpose? How can we actually flow together? So it's this rhythm that you do. You figure out which child likes which kind of music.
Yeah.
And then that's the route that you'll get into. So I think as a parent, you want to be able to learn different styles.
Right.
And you don't have to be great at all of them. You just have to be able to do a few steps with each one, because
Sure.
that's what we need.
You can still have your preference, is kind of what I hear you
Absolutely.
saying. Like, this is kind of the way that I do things.
And
But
that's easy for you.
but
It comes
but
natural.
as long as I know a few steps that are going to be helpful to the people I'm trying to raise, then they can feel sort of seen and known.
Yeah.
So, Myra, we have just a little bit of time left, but there's something about you that I have grown to really appreciate in the couple of years that we have gotten to know each other. And I think that you have some wisdom to offer our listeners when it comes to being, you got your doctorate while you're raising kiddos, which I don't know that I could do that, but I admire the heck out of you for it. But as you were sort of like doing this, school, raising three boys that are 6 years apart, working all of those things, you have given me wisdom when it comes to like what it means to sort of balance my life as a working mother. I don't know, what advice would you have when it comes to, parents who just, have some ambition, but also want to be there for their kids? I don't know. What do you think?
I think I learned the lesson the hard way.
Hmm.
If I could share with people, things to think about and awareness, we would say, "Oh, we'll do that when kids are older, when this, right?" And that's not what we need to do. We need to do it now if there's something going on. And yeah, I did. I don't know if I could do it again, but when I got my doctorate, we had one. The second one was 2 weeks old when I started, and the other thing was born in between. But I tell you what, I didn't see it happening. So what's important is that we support each other, because I had one of the professors look at me and say, "Hey, you've got to get that S off your shirt." And I was like crushed and thought, what? And what he was saying is, he was actually calling me up, trying to say, "Hey, we see things in you, but you're really killing yourself and you don't even see it." Because I wanted to be good at this and good at this and good at this, because I felt pressure. I spent 4 years straight, of doing that, because my family was supporting me on that. But at the same time, am I able to give to everybody? I wanted my career and I wanted to be the best mom and a wife. It's a lot of pressure and everybody has different, their own pressures, right? And so the S was really saying, hey, you can't be a super mom, super student, super parent, super this, because you're exhausted. It's exhausting. Had he not called me up and said, you got to stop. And I had the other lesson I learned is one, get the S off your shirt, right? You don't have to be great at everything. And we have, some of us have tendencies to want to do that. And so part of it's a personality thing, but you have to be aware of it so you shift it. It doesn't have to be that way all the time. You can redefine that, even if it's your personality. And also the other one said, you know what, whoa, we expect a lot. And I think we expect a lot out of kids sometimes. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
But they said, hey, what you do and the pressure you put on is also sometimes above and beyond what I'm doing. And it's the outside things, but then also the internal things, what we're saying. So it comes from both.
Yeah.
And she said, hey, you got to look in the mirror. And that whole self-awareness piece is huge for me.
I love how you didn't say that this professor called you out. They called you up. This professor was trying to like draw a better Myra out, to sit there and say, give yourself some grace. You don't have to be perfect at all these things. And don't be exhausted.
Yeah, because, the thing is, if we don't give ourselves some grace and compassion, and what he was saying is, if you don't take care of yourself, you won't have the energy and desire or ability to take care of other people. And so that was a very hard lesson. It seems like 1 + 1, but I think I was fairly educated at the time, and I'm in my early 30s, and I didn't have it figured out. Someone had to say, hey, and I got to tell you, it's like, it's hard to hear it, but thank goodness someone was willing to do it. And sometimes we don't even want to say something to somebody, but I think if it's done with compassion and grace, and you're truly trying to get that person to level up to the best they can be, thank goodness people are able to do that, because we can't always see it ourselves.
That's kind of that revealing thing that we were talking about. It's just that moment where someone's like, hey, I see that you're tired and that you're trying to do all these things with compassion, calling you up. I love that so much. And I think that that's such good wisdom. May we all be blessed with people who are going to love us enough for that. I think about the people in my life that have sat there and called me up. And at first it's like a little like, excuse me.
Yes, it is.
Excuse me. You don't realize how much hustling I'm doing over here. But then after you sort of sit with it a little bit, you're like, oh, okay, that's a mirror that I need to see about myself so that I can be a better Angie or be a better mom or be a better pastor, all those roles that God has sort of blessed me with. How do I keep that sort of in, I wouldn't say balance. I don't think that balance really exists, but how can I keep that sort of centered? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we're ever really balanced. I don't know.
That's why I savor them all the time. It's some are gonna flow easy and some are gonna be really hard.
Yeah.
And this kind of thing of being able to call up, I think we can do that with our children. And children, and I remember when I was a kid, especially a teenager, I didn't appreciate it. I thought I knew everything. Yeah. And so being able to call them up and you see it, and sometimes they're not going to be happy with you as a parent.
Yeah.
That's okay, because your role is really to guide them.
Yeah.
And so not all the decisions are going to be what they want to have happen. But if people and parents look at themselves and say, why am I doing this? What's my intention of being able to do this? Set boundaries, set limits, encourage, support,
right.
Kind of healthy challenge.
Yeah.
But it's going to be able to say, am I calling them up to the best version they can be?
I think that's even great language as a parent. Like, hey, I'm not calling you out on this. I'm calling you up. I think you could sit down with your kid and say, like, I know that this current space is not the best that you can be. And I think that's great language for us to sort of put in our pockets, in our tool belt. Myra, I love talking to you. This is such a joy for me. If people are more interested in sort of the work that you're doing, Crossing Life's Bridges, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've created that. I partner with my horses sometimes and without, but Crossing Life's Bridges is a place where people who, I don't do direct therapy anymore because I was a psychologist, but it's more equal gestalt coaching. It's what I kind of call it. But it's maybe really just looking at, you can still heal, move forward, let go of things that aren't serving you anymore, professional, personal growth, do some leadership stuff, but being able to say, look, where am I at right now? Where do I want to go? What do I need to let go of? What do I need to move forward on? And that's kind of my sweet spot.
Awesome. What's your website, just in case somebody wants to look it up?
CrossingLifesBridges.com.
.com. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us here on the Raising the Next Gen podcast. For podcast listeners, I want to make sure that you know that we have a conference coming up. It's on September 27th, and you can find out all the information about the conference. We're going to bring parents, caregivers, grandparents, anyone who is interested in kind of leaning into how we raise the next generation well. But you can find that on our website, raisingthenextgen.org. We tried to make it super easy there, so you can get information about that. Thanks for joining us, Myra. I'm really glad that you're here.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Great.